Sometimes it is not the employee that is actually the bad fit. Sometimes it's actually that the leader hasn't created the conditions or the environment for that employee to succeed. So before you fire someone, ask yourself, did I lead them well enough to thrive? Hi, I'm Barika from Simply Unique Coaching. I have been leading for over 15 years. I've led way more than 18 teams. I've actually been leading since 1997, and I'm here to help you to think and to grow as a leader. What I want to help you with is before you decide to fire someone, how to tell if you actually have done your due diligence as a leader. And today's video may be a little tough of a conversation, but as you know, and as I know, good leaders are willing to have those tough conversations because they are going to help us grow and they are going to help those around us grow. And as we go through today's video, I want us to focus on self-reflection, which is huge, 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 as well as accountability and growth as a leader. So let's go ahead and really evaluate, should this employee be terminated, or do I need to do more as a leader to help them and to try to show that I've done my best to support them? So here's some reflection questions. I am super huge on reflection questions. At one point in time, I was also an educator, and I still kind of feel like I'm always an educator. Reflection questions just help us to think deeply and to apply what we're learning, right? So before making a determination and a decision to terminate someone, ask yourself, have I clearly communicated my expectations to this employee? Did I also, B, provide them with the tools, training, and support that they needed to be successful? C, have I given timely and constructive feedback so that they had the opportunity to change? D, did I check in regularly and offer coaching or training in areas where they may have needed additional support? E, have I created an environment in which they could thrive? So we have to take a moment to consider, have we done everything that we could to support this employee? And if the answer is no, then we need to do our part as good leaders to make sure that we have exhausted every avenue to try to make this person successful. And if they still are not successful, then of course we have to make the appropriate decision. So here are some mistakes that leaders can make when it comes to the decision to terminate an employee. One is assuming that the poor performance actually equals poor character, that just because they're not performing well means that they're actually a terrible person. And those things do not correlate. Sometimes they are not performing well because they may not have had proper training or complete training, or maybe there's something they don't understand. Maybe they're afraid to ask. So we want to have those conversations with them to try to get to the root of, is this something that's solvable, or is this something where this person really is not going to get it and I need to help them find their happy place so that I can bring somebody in where this will be their happy place and they're going to perform well and succeed and feel great because they are succeeding. If you terminate someone and you have not had a difficult conversation with them, meaning that you have not given them that feedback that they need in order to be successful, to let them know that something needs to change and exactly what needs to change for them to be successful, then we really can't fault the employee if we haven't sat down and had that conversation with them, okay? And as leaders, we just have to get used to having those conversations. The more you have them, the easier they become and the more natural they become, so you can start having them earlier, waiting too late, and then the employee wondering why they've been working for months without being told that there was a problem, and then that leading to an even bigger problem. Also, if you follow me on the channel or if you watch any of my other videos, I am huge on documenting what has happened, especially those difficult conversations. You want to have your paper trail. You want to make sure that you are clear and that the employee is clear. Clarity is a leader's best friend, and that leads to no confusion. There should not be any confusion on what I need this employee to do, when I need them to do it, and how I need them to do it. And you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be harsh. You don't have to you should never raise your voice. That should not be a thing. And if that is a thing, you need to stop. This is a big one that some leaders may not actually think is applicable, but it is very, very, very applicable. And I would honestly say that this is a sign of a mature leader. This can kind of show you a novice leader versus a more mature leader, because they're going to know this, that you have to adapt your leadership style to the employee's needs, okay? Every employee is not the same. And it's almost like when a parent tries to use one parenting style for 7 kids, those are 7 different individuals. Some may have some similarities, but they're 7 different individuals. Some kids you can talk to and then they'll straighten up. Some kids, they need to have a consequence. They need to have a timeout or whatever, and they'll straighten out after that. Some kids are just going to buck the system. And you just got to work with them until they understand that, okay, for your own safety as an adult, you can't just buck the system all the time. because that leads to people going to jail, right? So you can't just decide you want to take something out of the store. There are going to be consequences. So the same thing happens in leadership. Like, all of your employees are not the same. And if you try to lead them the same way, you're going to find it to be very, very difficult. And I'll just give you a personal story. I am a direct communicator. I am a very analytical person by nature. And in one of my teams, I had someone who is the complete opposite of me. And I didn't know that at the time. And I couldn't figure out why is it that me and this lady keep bumping heads. When it came down to it, it wasn't that she was a bad person. It wasn't that I was a bad person. We were just two different people with two different personalities. And once I learned that and I started to approach her with her personality style, knowing that, I can't have that direct communication with her unless it's an emergency. To get the best result, I need to have that how's it going conversation. How's your family conversation? How's your pet dog conversation? Okay, by the way, I need X, Y, and Z, because she was a relationship oriented person. And of course, I value relationships, but I'm also very direct and very focused. So when I get in that mode, I'm just like, I will go there because that's the analytical part. It thinks of the end and how to get to that end. And so I had to adapt my leadership style for working with her. And then after that, we didn't have any problems because it's like, oh, she's a different human being. Like, everybody doesn't think like me. Everybody's not wired like me. Oh, and as a young leader at the time, that was an epiphany for me. And I hope for some of you maybe that are new to leadership or that are younger leaders, maybe that's an epiphany to you that, oh yeah, maybe I need to adjust the way that I'm approaching this person and I'll get better results. And I'm telling you, it makes your leading night and day. It becomes more effective. The more you study people, the more you get to learn about people. And this is honestly what I teach in a lot of my videos. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Also, this is another mistake that a leader can make, is ignoring the team dynamics or systemic issues. So if somebody is on the team and they aren't getting along with the team members and you decided to fire them, maybe they weren't wrong. Maybe it was the other team members. Maybe they had like a clique or something and they decided to put this one on the out. So people might not be that friendly or helpful to that person, and it might impact their performance because maybe they need something and the person they need it from is like, oh, lackadaisical about giving it to them. Well, that's going to impact their performance. So we need to take a look at that. I actually did have that happen on a different team. That's a whole nother story for another time. But where somebody came into a team and then there was a whole lot of infighting. And I was like, listen, I had to pull out a conference room one day. I was like, listen, what we're not going to do is be in here fighting. Like, we're going to deal with the issues. We're going to put all the cards on the table now. And we're going to deal with all the miscommunication and all the things. And after we have this conversation and we get to the root of what the issue is, and once we resolve it, we're not going to be discussing this again. We're going to sit here until we get this figured out. And we did, and we had a great team thereafter, but it was because I was willing to deal with that difficult issue, and we were willing as a team to be honest and deal with the difficult conversations that needed to take place for that team to be successful, because there has to be honesty for a team to be successful. Also, this is a huge one. I love leaders. Like, listen. You might think that you're communicating clearly, but if you are not getting the results that you are expecting, there possibly is an issue with the communication. So make sure that you are communicating your expectations as clear as possible. Make sure that the employee can repeat them back to you. If they can't repeat it back to you in the same way that you intended it to be, then there has not been clear communication. This is a huge one, and I kind of talked about this one earlier, is expecting your employees to think or behave like you. And that was the problem, kind of the root problem that I was having with that young lady at the time, because I just assumed that everybody thought or behaved like me. And the sooner that we realize that they don't, one of my favorite sayings is, people do things for reasons that make sense to them. Okay? It doesn't have to make sense to me, but they did that thing. You ever saw somebody in there? Why in the world would they do X, Y, and Z? And then I just have come to the conclusion, for some reason it made sense to them. So, okay, in Arabic they would say mafi mushkila. So, okay, whatever, mafi mushkila. If it is a problem, we will address it. But for the most part, people don't really have bad hearts. There are a lot of good people in the world, and don't let social media make you think the other way around. If you focus on negative stuff, it's going to turn your thinking negative. So, but if you focus on positive stuff, you're going to see the world a lot brighter. Okay, so how can we clearly assess if we have actually done our due diligence as a leader to help that employee be successful? One, we have to determine if there's clarity. Was the role and the success criteria clearly defined for that employee? And if the answer is yes, and they understood it, then okay, that's one thing we have to know. If you as a leader spoke to them clearly and they understood it clearly, then that's saying, okay, we might have a problem here. Also, number two, did any coaching take place? Did you actively support their growth? Did you give them training and development? Did you document that you gave them training and development so that they can't say, well, I never knew X, Y, and Z. I had this one situation where this lady, bless her heart, she trained me on how to do something. And later on, I had to train her on the thing that she trained me on. I was like, you trained me on how to do this work. Why is it all of a sudden that you are unable to do this work and you don't know what you're doing, but you're the one who trained me and now I'm having to sit next to you and train you on the thing that you trained me on. But okay, anyway, number three, have I been fair and consistent in my expectations as a leader? And I will tell you that is something I really try to reflect on. If I am not getting what I need from a team member, from an employee, I sit down and think, okay, did I clearly communicate to them what I needed? And if not, let me go ahead and do that now. Okay. And, are you expecting the moon from them? Because sometimes people are expecting way too much from the employee. Like they're only human. Don't expect them to be superhuman. Don't put more on their shoulders than they should have to carry. Number four, does the work environment support their success? For instance, this will be really, really important. So some people don't like a lot of noise. They work a lot better when they have a noiseless environment, or they have an environment that they have a little bit more control over the volume of what things are happening. So is it okay for them to wear headphones as they do their work? Is it okay for them to find a quiet space in the workplace if they're in an office or something to do their work? Or, if they work from home, they have more control over that. But that is a huge factor. I have definitely seen that where the noise level can impact an employee. So something like that, that may not be the only environmental situation, but I know that that's a huge, huge, huge one. If all of these were in place and performance is still lacking, then it may actually be a fit issue. It may be an issue where you may actually need to terminate them, but this is not a one fit all list. And actually I have a better video that goes into more detail of, okay, these are 10 signs that you may want to consider if you need to fire an employee. So have you ever realized that you could actually have done a better job of leading someone? Or have you had a boss that you felt like, man, if they would have done some things differently, I could have been a better employee? If so, drop it down in the comments. And again, I want you to watch this video on 10 warning signs that it is time to fire an employee. If you think, no, I legit may need to actually terminate this person, go ahead and watch this video next. And with that being said, make it an amazing day. Have a great one.